it is truly necessary for you to get the appropriate amount of own occupation disability insurance. Thank you very much, Mish.
I don't like to say Michigan, though, so just remember that.
You don't like to say Michigan?
We don't say Michigan, so just keep it as you, Mish.
You know, I used to live in Michigan.
I know that. And honestly, the only reason why we started this podcast is because you moved to the East Coast, so...
Welcome to the Physician Sense Podcast, a podcast designed specifically for physicians, offering a breakdown of complex financial topics to help you develop your financial IQ, further your financial journey, and improve your well-being. Whether you're a medical student, resident, fellow, or attending physician, you're sure to learn something new that will benefit your journey. And now, your hosts, Chad Chubb and Tyler Olson.
Welcome to another episode of the Physician Sense Podcast. And yes, it is completely different. Tyler and I are fresh off the stage at WCICon. Fun side story. First time we've ever been together. Whole year of podcast. We've never met in person. We've been hanging out the entire time. We're hanging out so much, we're actually in my hotel room right now because this is the only quiet place in all of San Antonio to record for you.
And look, he's real.
Yeah, actually, same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty.
We're like, we might as well do one in person. And like, we're looking at you right now, but we can also look.
I actually don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm so used to being in my office. So now.
Yeah. Well, we thought that it would be really fun to address a number of questions that you all have posed to then sent through our form on the Physician Sense website. We're really glad that you're asking questions because we want to know what things are on your minds. And so we are going to take 4 questions today. Is that right?
4. We got 4, and we'll have another mailbag episode right after this one. So
yeah, total of 8.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now, you'll have a whole nother one.
Yeah.
We also need to make a quick little apology here. With any new venture, there's logistics. So Tyler and I thought we had a ironclad system that whenever you would send a question, it would get emailed to us. And fun side fact, that does happen for most of the questions. But then we also realized there's a Google form that does not email us. So for example, some of these questions go back to July of 2024. Our bad. We're going to fix it now. I'll even give you a shout out by name because none of these names will give away your identity in case you're giving us some dirty financial secrets. But first and foremost, we're better at this now. Whenever you send questions, you will not have to wait
months.
That was growing pains.
Yeah, we appreciate your patience.
So first up,
yep, let's go for it.
Sing from July of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few weeks ago. Just missed it by a little bit. Actually, by the time this goes live, technically that's almost a year. In defense of that, I'd like to note that we are recording this at the end of February, so it's not as bad as it sounds. It's bad, but not as bad. Okay. Here's Sing's question. A great question too, so thank you, Sing. I heard that there is an exception that you can withdraw money from a Roth IRA for a first-time home purchase. Is this true? And does it vary by state or a federal law?
Great question. Very, very niche. It is true. So you can do this. It's a lifetime maximum of $10,000. And it is not associated with your contributions. This is relevant to Roth contributions because Roth contributions did not receive a tax deduction anyway. So you can withdraw contributions from the Roth IRA anytime. Not that you want to plan on doing that, but you can.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I'm speaking in terms of direct Roth IRA contributions, not backdoor Roth IRA contributions, because that has its own subset of rules that we can get into in a moment. But assuming you're talking about directly contributed Roth IRA contributions, say you had like $20,000 in aggregate between what you contributed and what it grew into, technically you could take out all 20,000, right?
Yeah.
So that because the 10,000 from what you contributed, you can always take out, and then the 10,000 in growth, that goes against the $10,000 lifetime funding that you can use to buy a first home, right? So you can do it, but if it's a backdoor Roth contribution, you can't, right?
Well, that's where you get into the 5-year rules.
Right.
So less than 5 years, you still pay ordinary income tax, but you can avoid the penalty only for the home purchase. So
right.
This is truly the $10,000 home purchase. If it's after those 5 years, that's where you can avoid both. But to Tyler's point, if you were doing direct contributions to a Roth, you never have to worry about this $10,000 limit. But before we got on here, our big thing, we would err a lot of caution to anyone doing this. Your Roth is extremely valuable. So whether it's 10,000, 20,000, anything out of your Roth, I would be very hesitant to pull anything out of there. We even discussed a little bit, physician mortgages, for the most part, nothing down. Doesn't mean you don't want to put anything down when rates are this high. But while Singh asked a fantastic question here, proceed with caution, pulling from the Roth.
Yeah. In practice, you should ask yourself, if I need to do this in order to make it work, is it a good idea? Now, obviously, sometimes we have to face financial decisions that are far from ideal. And so it's not to say that you should never do this, even if you have to do it. We're just saying that within the confines of a reasonable range of decision possibilities, it would be good to not make this one of your first options. The physician mortgage lets you put 0% down. You'll still have to pay for closing costs. You shouldn't just gut all your savings in order to pay for that, because you'll have things that you have to repair in the new home, furnishings, and you still want to have an emergency fund in place for emergencies. So this is a good thing to know that exists, but in practice, I would say that it is probably one of the last ways in which I would recommend somebody pay for their first home, even though it's an option, because it's just, to me, it demonstrates that there's no savings outside of the Roth.
Mm-hmm.
Or
there's no emergency fund, most likely.
Right. Or maybe I could see where someone has an emergency fund and they're like, I don't want to touch the emergency fund, but I could tap into the Roth IRA in order to pay for it. And then they'd still have the emergency fund.
Curveball for you.
Okay.
You can pull $10,000 out of the Roth IRA, or you can take a 401k loan.
Ooh.
I just thought of that one. I don't have the answer in my head.
Well, in my mind, if I had to choose between those two, I'm going for the 401k loan, because you're paying yourself interest.
It's kind of my thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. I would err toward that.
I figured you get the investment back, right? You put it back in there.
Right. You can get it back in. Roth IRA contributions taken out, you can never put those back in. You just have to try to restart from the year in which you're able to do it.
Technically, you have the 60-day rule.
Yeah.
If you did pull it out and somehow you got a random bonus that came in, you're like, I want to get that money back in quick. Because remember, you can only get your $7,000 back into it based on contribution.
Yeah.
But you do have a 60-day window to get it back in there. Luckily, a bonus came in or something like that. But more of the story. Fantastic question from Singh. Proceed with caution with the Roth. Think about other options. Again, physician mortgage, 401k loan, just a fun side question, but something in your back pocket.
Yeah. I mean, my back pocket idea is don't buy the house right now. I mean,
build up to 10,000.
Right. I mean, because if you're, sometimes there's timing issues, like maybe there's like some sort of time sensitive thing, but man, I do not like rushing home purchase decisions and like doing it in a way where it's like, you're just barely making it work. That's a high stress decision process for me, but they do exist. So yeah, it's a great question. It's good to know what these options are. Just know that, the physician's loan, definitely prioritize that option over this. And I think we covered that, right?
It'd be fun to get more context to it as well. Like, is this like, I'm just trying to get 10,000 in to get a down payment? Or is it like, no, I need 10 grand because even though I did a physician mortgage, I did such a large physician mortgage that I had to put at least 5% down and I'm just trying to fill up the bucket now. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because that's also completely different answers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're in that situation, see, like a couple of the lenders that we know, they'll loan 100% up to $1 million. So if you're at like $1.1 million house, and you're in the situation where you're thinking about gutting the Roth, like no.
Yeah.
So saying what we're really saying, if you're watching or listening, is that we would love to nerd out with you on this question. Yeah. So if you have follow-up questions to this one, please let us know. We would love to learn more context around this question, because I'm sure there's more that we don't know.
Hopefully a year later saying you're still watching. And if you are, send us some follow-ups we can build on this. By this point, you probably live in the house. You probably added a pool to the back. Yeah, you're probably living the dream at this point. Now we're getting to it a year later. Yeah. But thank you, Singh. Great question. Again, we apologize for the delay. Again, we're figuring this out as we go here, but we appreciate it. So next up, we got a few disability. This one is from Marissa. September of 2024, slowly getting better here. Basics of disability insurance, when to buy it, important part here, asked by a fourth-year medical student, which clearly we love the topic of disability. I like that Marissa's noting a medical student because I feel like most of our conversation, even though we love medical students, is always more like, get a GSI while you're in training, or if you're an attending, this is a no-brainer. But coming from medical student kind of adds a fun dynamic to it.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking?
Well, first, definitely want to commend you for thinking ahead. Yeah. So here's something I've heard. Some medical students have told me that they're able to get disability insurance through their school. And like, I can't remember what the cost is exactly, but they've asked about doing that. And I think it's not a bad idea because they're not necessarily going to match into a program that offers a GSI. And so, like, one of the major reasons to get disability insurance as soon as you can reasonably afford it is because you may not always be eligible for it on a medical underwriting process basis. So if you have health issues that would prevent you from getting it later on, and you had the option to get it while you're in medical school, that's not the worst idea in the world. I think it kind of depends on the company though too, and what the cost is, because the major disability insurance companies that do a great job at providing good contracts, those would be Emeritus and Guardian and Mass Mutual and Principal and the Standard.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's one of those companies, that's
green light.
Yeah, I would say you could do it. One thing you want to find out, and of course, when this comes out, anyone who's graduating this year, you'll have found out where you matched.
Mm-hmm.
You want to find out if your program has a guaranteed standard issue policy attached to it. This is not something that your GME will know a lot of times. Sometimes they'll know, but a lot of times they don't. So ask us, or like you can ask us on social, like ask us about that. We're going to continue to like share as much as we can about which programs offer GSIs, because that would be another thing to add on. So as a graduating medical student, that's like your next step is getting a GSI. And that's one of the reasons why you see us talk a lot about Stephanie and Larry and Michael, the agents that we know really well that are on our resources page. They are connected with a lot of GSI programs. And even if they're not, they've demonstrated that they will make sure that people get to those GSIs if they're not able to take care of it themselves. So you want to work with an agent that will prioritize your security during the insurance underwriting process. So that's what I would say to most graduating medical students. But like, what if they're, okay, so on the topic of graduating medical students going into intern year, let's say they've done their budget and they're paying for all expenses. And after all expenses are paid for, they've got $300 left that they could allocate somewhere, and they don't have any savings. Should they pay $150 for a known occupation disability policy right away?
So the first thing, I'm happy you went there. The first thing I was thinking, this is probably a really good case where possibly the increasing premium makes sense.
Oh, the graded?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Come in low.
Yep. Yeah.
The key is once you become an attending, or if you even get comfortable in training, get it back to level, but you could finish that off.
Yeah.
Because even when we had that conversation with Michael even said the pricing actually looks pretty good right now on graded premiums.
Right.
So a graded premium, just to add context to it, is essentially the premium will start off lower to start, but again, get higher over time until you switch it to level. If you switch it to level once you become an attending, smart play. Where people get trapped or make a bad decision is they forget to turn it off. And when that plays out, you actually end up paying a decent amount more for the policy over the lifetime of the policy. So sometimes this can be a really good option if you have in medical school no income or very low income, and even through your training years, right? You have a lower income, you're trying to make the most of $300 left over. How do you make the most of it? This could be a kind of a slam dunk for that.
Yeah, because you're probably looking at ungraded. I've seen those $5,000 per month policy benefits. I've seen it like $70 a month.
Yeah, I was going to say 60, 70, 80. I've seen around that range.
As opposed to like 120, 130, 140. And that's a big difference when your savings rate is only $300 a month in this hypothetical situation. But that's pretty common to be in that scenario. So again, like if you talk to an agent, you could ask them to give you a comparison. And if they know that you're going into medical training and they know what they're doing, they will probably give you a comparison so that you could make that work. But I would say the one thing I was thinking about that compelled me to ask that question is having some substance of an emergency fund is an important risk management decision. Like you need to, you don't want to be insurance poor where you've got great insurance but no savings, because if you got to find a balance. I like to aim for $1,000 in cash savings and then move on to 1 month worth of expenses while you're in training. If you can find a way to hit those markers, I would say let's try to get $1,000 in savings before we're getting the disability policy. But at the same time, I know it's important to get it as soon as possible. But I don't know. I think that if you can afford an $80 per month disability policy, you could get $1,000 saved in an emergency fund in several months, right?
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know Marissa's financial circumstances, but maybe there's some parent help. If so, remember, you don't always have to do monthly premiums. Maybe you do an annual premium on the graded side of it. Get that out of the way, and then keep your actual cash flow once you start as an attending, into your intern year there, and have a little bit better cash flow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just things to keep in mind. It's like the blessing and the curse with these questions. Fantastic questions, and then our brain starts spinning. We're like,
Yeah. Yeah. There's more context to this that we may not know about your situation, Marissa. But if you have any follow-up questions, let us know. It's good that you're thinking about this.
We didn't miss the first part of your question either, Marissa. It says basics of disability insurance. One, I think we've covered that with really good content so far. But the next question is also, we're going to build on that. So we didn't forget about that first part of your question. So our next question comes from you, Mish, which as a Penn State alumni, I debated to throw this question out, but we're going to go with it. Good question, though. Really good question. This is from October. Is disability insurance truly a necessity?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, yes.
I was going to say, short answer, I would be a yes.
Yeah.
No brainer.
Yeah. It is far too likely of a possibility. And when I say likely, I'm not saying you're very likely going to become disabled. I'm saying that within the realm of things that we can protect with insurance, becoming disabled to the point that you would not be able to work for some period of time is likely relative to dying during a 20-year term life insurance policy. Or even more so, why is umbrella insurance so cheap? Because it's extremely unlikely to be used. But disability insurance is expensive. And it's not because the insurance companies have just tricked all of us into thinking that we need something that we don't need and they charge us, a ton of money. It's because there is documented information about the probabilities of becoming disabled to the point that you would not be able to earn an income with your job. And to not get disability insurance as a physician it's very risky, because the delay in saving for retirement, the delay in saving for other things that you value, the student loans that you have to manage, all of that is like a house of cards that can become stabilized by your attending income. But a disability that takes that away, there's no financial plan that can be built to protect against that possibility, particularly within the first 15 years of practice.
I'm actually thinking to Jim's keynote presentation earlier today, where he says, riding a helicopter is very expensive, noting back to his fall down the mountain.
Right.
And in my head, I'm thinking, that's still a couple $100,000s with insurance. Think about if you went naked on disability insurance and you actually had a disability event. You're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for a physician. You're talking millions of dollars. I mean, heck, $250 and you missed 4 years of work. You just missed $1 million.
Right.
So, yes, it truly is a necessity. Now, in defense of that question, yes, I know that there's sticker shock that comes with it. And remember, females even have a little bit more sticker shock, which is even a little bit tougher. The key thing to keep in mind here is going to be that you don't have to have it forever. So someday you will be financially independent and you can drop this policy. So if you're asking this question because you hate how much that premium is, I know it's a tough pill to swallow for a while, but just use it as a little motivator. Save a little bit more, hit financial independence, and then you can send them the old get rid of this policy card. But yes, it's truly a necessity. And to kind of bring in Marissa's question, especially as a young physician, it's insuring your biggest asset. Like, look at your whole balance sheet. The one thing you're not thinking of is you, right? Your income, not only today, but every year going forward. That's why it's so important. I don't want to say it's more important than health insurance, but it's up there as in like you have to have it. There's no questions asked.
Yeah. Man, that's a can of worms.
Yeah.
Because like health insurance, yeah, it's like, I mean, think about that. I mean, we should each have health insurance because if push comes to shove in our life and we have a series of procedures that need to be done, we have something catastrophic that happens sudden, the ability to be able to work with the hospital systems and with the providers, you got to have insurance.
Yeah.
But like disability insurance, all the more so, like that's like a very personal event specific thing that could happen to just you. And even if it's unlikely to happen, the stats will mean nothing to you if it does happen to you. And now you're in a situation where you can't readily replace that income. So it's important. I will also with respect to that question, I've seen way too many occasions with disability insurance agents and what they're offering that they're trying to encourage riders that are not really necessary. Like the student loan rider, forget about it. Like there's another one is the catastrophic one. That one has a place sometimes, especially if you know that you have some health issues and so you get on the GSI. If you're going to go that route because you know of some health things, it's really beneficial. Like Larry was telling us that one time. He said that you can tack on a catastrophic policy onto the GSI when you apply for it to really maximize what you could possibly get in terms of coverage. This is if you know I've got something in my history that's going to make me uninsurable on like a personal policy. You can take that advantage of when you apply for the GSI to also add the CAT rider or catastrophic rider. But if that's not you, a lot of times the catastrophic rider it's not worth it. It'd be better to build up your base, to use the cost of that rider to build up your base, coverage or
the base coverage.
The base coverage, to increase that. So you want to be mindful of what's being presented to you and what is being sold, because sometimes the policy could be adding on riders that you don't need to pay for, and so it's good to get what you need, but to be intentional about reviewing it and not just being like, I need everything, because you don't need all the bells and whistles. Cost of living, you do need the residual benefit. You need that as your income goes up.
Guaranteed insurability. You need that one. Yeah.
Right. So, but the agents that do this day in and day out, they know exactly what the pros and cons are of these different costs. So it is truly necessary for you to get the appropriate amount of own occupation disability insurance. Thank you very much, Umish. All right. Ready?
I don't like to say Michigan though, so just remember that.
You don't like to say Michigan?
We don't say Michigan, so just keep it as you, Mich.
I used to live in Michigan.
I know that. And honestly, the only reason why we started this podcast is because you moved to the East Coast, so. All right, next up, the good news is we are into 2025 now. So this one comes from, this is from Daniel. All right, so now this one's a little bit longer, so stick with me here.
All right.
I'm a fifth-year general surgery resident. I just got a GSI policy from Guardian, sounds good there, in place with a $5,000 per month benefit with the future increase option rider up to $15,000, partial disability, and COLA rider, cost of living rider. My question is this. What are the downsides of a GSI policy? Should I consider applying for a normal, personalized medically underwritten policy since I have nothing to lose now that I have the GSI in place? I am considering going that route since I have fairly minimal past medical history, although I do have some. I figure I could just see what I would get offered and go from there since I already have the GSI, but just looking for some guidance before I try it.
Mm.
Fantastic question.
It is.
Deep.
And thank you for the context, Daniel.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. So, I mean, you should definitely see what you could get, because in some cases, the GSI policy is more expensive than a standard underwritten policy. It's not going to be across the board the case all the time, but it's, the fact that they're insuring everyone in your group without going through medical underwriting, they tend to build in an additional premium cost to cover that risk that the insurance company is taking. But now that you've gone that step to get that GSI, you could compare. You could see like how that would compare the cost of what you're paying right now comparing to a standard policy. Now you will. Well, this is actually, I didn't think about this till now. So I've talked about this before, and there are others in medicine who have a strong interest in disability insurance that they don't like the idea of abandoning GSI policies, like on principle, because it's like creating it's a matter of like stability, of like a market stability for the insurance companies.
So like if enough people drop it, they'd be concerned that they stop selling it?
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it would just come down to the offer though, right? Because now, like, for example, if this question was from a female physician that said, I have a unisex GSI policy, never dropping that thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She's going to have that as her core forever.
Right.
And then maybe she'll add in more, but she'll
Right.
never change that one.
Because it's definitely less expensive.
And I mean, here, Daniel notes having some medical history. So the good news is this is in place. So even if he would technically get denied, his GSI is there.
Or a modification.
Or, any type of modification, which is a lot more common than actually a full-out decline. A full-out decline, some stuff is going down.
Right.
I guess the thing that I would come back to, like the only, this would be, I wish we had one of our insurance gurus with us, but like the one thing I know, if you want the mental or substance abuse riders,
right?
Like if you have some type of concern about that, or if you have a family history that you're concerned about, that's one that even on the GSI, you can't make that fancy.
Right.
You have to do that on the fully underwritten policy.
I think it does 24 months.
Yeah, it's like 2 year, I think, on every one of them.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. There's good reason to do this. And Daniel and anyone else who's interested in this, when I say the pushback that I hear about like dropping the GSI because it could destabilize the insurance market, that's not your problem. And I say that very strongly because I know that there's a lot of pressure on you in medicine to take responsibility for everybody on your shoulders, that like somehow your commitment to your day-to-day and have you heard the phrase, we really need you to join the committee, because otherwise if you don't, it's really going to make it difficult to be able to provide the best care to our patients. I'm sure many of you have heard that, and they're trying to pressure you to like take on this responsibility, and it's not yours. So Daniel, I'm not trying to say that this is your responsibility. I just wanted you to know the context around some of these things. It really is good to look into it, for the reasons that Chad mentioned too, not just cost, but also additional benefits that may not be provided by the GSI. So definitely get a comparison done.
Yeah. I mean, this would be one where, trying to give our list of experts some love. I'd send a note to a Larry, a Michael, a Stephanie.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, literally it's a beautiful question, and just see.
Copy paste, Daniel.
It could even be like how if he got the GSI policy in a state that he's now in a different attending state, there might be better pricing in that estate now compared to like there could be a lot of unique things that are happening where it may make sense to go fully underwritten,
right,
and drop the GSI. Or it might be the GSI is a good core, but when you go add on your next policy to layer onto it, go that route.
Yeah, that's a great point too. When you look at other policies, it's not necessarily that you must replace the existing one. Like for me, like I have two policies because it's just how it worked out for like the timing of like what coverage I could get, and when it was time to add on, it made more sense for me to get a separate policy. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you'll be replacing it, but it's definitely worth your time. And if you're fifth year general surgery, presuming you're not going into some fellowship of some kind, you're at a critical moment of making sure that you're making the most of these decisions as you transition into attendinghood. So yeah, just good on you trying to look ahead and make some good decisions.
Yeah.
Man, really appreciate all these questions.
Yeah,
Really
nailed the first part too, getting the GSI. I mean, the hard part you got now.
Right.
It's just can you improve it? Can you optimize it? So
Yeah.
All right, that's mailbag part 1.
Sounds
so that's
good.
the first 4. We're gonna shut this down. Usually Tyler and I like to change shirts, but because we're in a shared hotel room right now, we will be wearing the same outfits on the next one unless Tyler has any surprises. As always, thanks, my friend.
Good to see you.
Maybe this gains traction. We have to start adding a travel budget. And we have to do these in person. Maybe they like our vibe when we're together now.
Florida in March sounds like it's nice.
I'll visit you in the summer, not the winter. I always said winter there. Whew.
Yeah.
Again, I'm from the Northeast, so no. I laugh about, remember when we had one of our sponsors and they asked, do we do everything in person?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. Nope, we do virtual, but this is fun. This is cool. So
give a good try, and we'll be back with more questions. So keep them coming.
Yep. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you again. Sorry for the delay. That won't happen again. We got a good system in place. We love the questions. Clearly, this is what we love. So fantastic questions. We'll catch you on the next one.
This information is for general purposes only. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific professional, financial, or tax advice, as individual concerns vary. Please see a financial professional, CPA, and/or an attorney in regards to your own individual situation. Wealth Heals Advisory Services and Financial Planning offered through Vicus Capital, Inc., a federally registered investment advisor. Olson Consulting, LLC, offering advisory services and financial planning, is a state-registered investment advisor.